equip trainees to develop data search criteria, and then inventorying the data that they identified, and then developing a diary of contacts. So those are some of the major things that I'm aiming to achieve with this first session. So in terms of developing your criteria, this is an important part of the process of sourcing data. You need a criteria that says what data you're looking for and what data you're not interested in to help you focus your search. This on the right sort of gives us more of a full picture in terms of the steps that we recommend for doing this search. So starting here at let me try to use the pointer so you can see. Highlighter. Yeah, starting here, I hope you can see the red dot. Starting here where it says develop, update the search criteria. So you need to decide what data am I looking for which geographical region, for which time period, so that your search is more focused on the actual data that you intend to find. Once this is defined, you then search for the data on various platforms that we'll look at in a little bit more detail. And then when you do that, you keep a list of the different sources where you've searched. And then as you find the data, you tag them to say, okay, what access level is this particular data set? Is it publicly available? Can you just download it? Do you need to do some registration for you to have access to it? And then after, or is it completely sort of secured? You can't access it. You can maybe just go to the site to do analysis. So those different access levels. And then as you go, you need to keep, because it's not all the data that you can just download. Some of them require registration, requests, and so on. So you need to keep a list of contacts. We'll get back to these things. I'm just summarizing them now. And then you need to prepare a diary of contacts. So beyond the list, you need a way, you need more details in terms of who have you talked to, when, and who do you need to follow up on, and so on. And then you review the data and you say, are these the data that I need? What are the gaps? If you're seeing gaps, you then go back to again update your search criteria, and then you continue with the cycle. So that's why I said there it's iterative. You need to repeat some of these steps as needed. So we'll try to now go through each of those cycles and see what's involved in each. So defining your search criteria. Here are the 4 attributes that I'm suggesting here, but this can be expanded as needed. So you need to clearly define the geographical coverage. I think in our case, we're interested in mental health in Africa. So you might get inspiration, of course, from literature generated or data sets generated from elsewhere, but your geographical focus is the African region. So that needs to be stated within your search criteria. And then also mental health in itself is a very broad area. So the the particular aspects of mental health that we're interested in, I think it's anxiety, depression, and psychosis. So you want to say what areas within mental health are you interested in, and then are they, you want to then also specify the demographics in terms of what age groups are you interested in, the gender of the person, and so on and so forth. So this could be expanded to socio-demographic variables that you're interested in. so that again your search is more targeted towards the population that you're interested in. And then on top of that, you need to think about the time period. What time period are you interested in? Is it the last 5 years? Is it, um, you know, beyond 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and so on, going back? So that has to be specified. So as I said, these are the 4 attributes that we are recommending, sort of as a basic starting point, but they could, could have a bigger set of attributes to use. The more you specify different attributes, the more your search is narrowed down and focused. I think as you do this searching, you see what sort of feedback you get when you're searching in the different platforms that will suggest, and then you make a decision to say, okay, do I want to be more specific, or do I want to broaden it, and so on and so forth. So as you do the search, you can get more guidance in terms of the results can guide you in terms of what you need to do. So using those attributes, you've developed your search criteria, then you actually go to do the actual searching. Utilize various data repositories and databases and platforms, and use relevant keywords for the domain and filters to narrow down your search, and consider both general and specialized repositories. So this is, you're now taking that search criteria and then using it to search in the different platforms. I think for data sets in Africa, one of the things you might want to do before you actually search for the data is to do a search of the different data repositories. What data repositories do we actually have in the continent? The preliminary checking that I did before this session, I saw a couple of repositories for publications, so research articles. But so we need to check to see what do we have in terms of data repositories. There are more established data repositories elsewhere outside our region, and there are a couple in our region. But yeah, it's worthwhile sort of first looking to see what various repositories do we have at hand. And yeah, I think a lot of our data, the data that actually exists, we either become aware of them through research articles, um, or something written on an institution's website and so on. It sort of points to one of the issues that probably has been highlighted in another module around structured metadata. It's not yet common practice for many research institutions to use structured metadata to describe their data. So at the end of the day, there's quite a bit of data out there, but it's sort of sitting on laptops or servers. It has not been documented enough for people to be able to discover it. So there's that challenge, but nonetheless, do get a list of the data repositories and other platforms that so that you can go and perform the search there. Okay. And then list the data sources and classify by access levels. So keep track of where your potential data sets are, where you find your potential data sets. Record the names, the URLs, and direct links for easy reference. So this helps you to keep track. I mean, for people who are involved in research, I'm not too sure what sort of the uh, skills level of the audience, but for people who are working in research, when you're looking for research articles, you keep track using like referencing software. The idea is that you want to keep a record of what you've looked at. That helps you not to forget about a source that's important to the work that you're doing and so on. So it's sort of the same here. You're keeping track in terms of what is it that I've looked at, what is it that I'm yet to look at, and so on. So when you keep this record, you can then go back to it at a later point as needed. So that's that. And then on the right here, you want to categorize the data sets according to accessibility. Is it something that you can just access, free? Is it just available on the internet and you can just download it once you discover it? Or is it something that requires you to register and then someone on the other end approves? Or it's totally restricted access, potentially requiring, I don't know, visit to the place where the data are deposited? Okay. So that's what you're doing in terms of listing the data sources and classifying them by access. Okay. And then prepare a diary of contacts. So you identify the relevant contacts associated with each of the data sets. So this is helping you to follow up later. These are the details that that would go into the diary of contacts. Record name, email, and other contact information, something that's relatively stable or static. So once you have someone's name, unless if that person changes jobs, that name won't change, their email, these things are more or less more stable. And then to this information here, add date of communication. Have you reached out to this person or to this institution via email or a phone call? What were you asking? What answers did you get? Just to keep track of what you're doing as you're going along. Because the more data sources you come across, there are different requirements in terms of accessing those data sets. Sometimes you contact one person and then they refer you to another and so on. So you need to keep that trail of your progress as you're working on this. Okay. And then you for each data set, you want to evaluate, select what you think is relevant for you, request for access if needed, and then you get hold of the data. So review the data sets based on relevance. Is it really touching on the things that you're interested in? What's the quality of the data? Or sometimes a data set may be claimed, a provider may say, oh, I have got this data, but are the variables that you're interested in the data, are the data complete? Are they pertaining to the population that you're interested in? So you want to check those things. Consider factors like completeness, reliability, and the documentation around the data. If the data set is downloadable, but is an Excel file that says V1, V2, V3 for the variable names, and within it there are numbers and letters that you don't understand, then it might not be very useful for you to download that data. So you want to check whether it's meeting your requirements. Okay. And then, yeah, so this actually touches on another module on this course that looks at data profiling and quality assessment. So So there is that a connection here between what we're talking about here and what's in that module, because that module goes into detail in terms of looking at the data and then seeing how good they are. So I think this bit here relates to the content of that module on data profiling and quality assessment. But this is sort of the initial checks that you're doing, and then the data quality assessment and profiling goes into more detail. Once you're happy with this, you've selected the data, you think it's relevant, the quality is good, and it meets your other requirements, then you can then access the data. If it's freely available, you can download or request for permission if needed. And you're keeping track within your record in terms of whether it's possible at all to access it. Okay. So just as a recap, you define your search criteria. You then, once you have a defined search criteria, you then search for the data. You list the different sources. You classify their access levels. You keep track of the contacts related to each of the data set as needed, and then you prepare a diary of contacts. I've just provided as a list here, but it's really iterative. You're going sort of in a circle, repeating some of the steps as you need to. And then, of course, evaluating the data sets and then downloading or requesting for access. Okay. So that's it in terms of the sourcing the data.